dealing with the opposite with CO2. You've got very high cost options that give you very little benefit. And again, on anyone's view of the science, on the economic side, the numbers keep coming out really unfavorably towards these Kyoto type or more recent efforts to impose targets. The numbers just don't add up for them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Peterson.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. We keep reading that we're moving rather quickly towards a break point, at which time the situation will be irreversible. I'd like your comment on that, because if we're still studying issues at that time, it'd be a little too late to do any adaptation.
I guess I could start off commenting that these breakpoints are based on speculated feedbacks that the Earth is going to behave in a predictable and measurable way. And I think that what we've shown today, I hope, is that the Earth is very unpredictable, and it has a lot of mechanisms in the climate system. The climate system is incredibly complicated. It's almost chaotic, although we find that there are cycles, there are events, and over geological time and over recent decades, these can then be taken and projected into the future with some relative certainty. And I think what Tim has been talking about with the ice roads work and the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, things like that, shows that there is some prediction that can be made. But catastrophic. We hear these words, we hear these alarmist calls that the only habitable place on Earth in 100 years will be Antarctica. Came from the scientific advisor to the British government. And these are nothing more than alarmist comments. And so the idea of tipping points and that we're going to go into irreversible climate feedback and a warming planet that will be uninhabitable is really wild speculation on what scientists might be saying, and certainly the politicians and advocates who pick up on these comments, and it's absolutely ludicrous. And we don't see this in the geological record. We see a balanced system that restores its equilibrium after a period of 100 years or 20 years. And I must point out that much of this science has been documented in a very good publication, Climate Change Reconsidered, by two groups, CO2 Science and the Science and Environmental Policy Project, which I believe is available to you all. I have a hard copy here, which is to be left, but the science behind this that we're trying to present today is well documented here in the literature. You good?
Yeah, sir. All right, Senator Grant Mitchell. The Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I want to begin by saying that, I don't doubt the sincerity of our witnesses. I think that sincerity is all that much more underlined by virtue of the fact that they sustain their position and they sustain their work, and in the face of literally thousands upon thousands of scientists and economists who are independent, who are spread out throughout academic institutions and other institutions across the world, and who answer and overwhelm the points that have been made here with devastating consensus and with devastating frequency. So I want to say that I don't doubt your sincerity. It isn't just the IPCC, and that's a straw man that's been raised here. It is every scientist that takes the position against which these gentlemen are opposed are not just IPCC scientists. This is independent scientists, literally, all over the world. And so in a way, to believe these arguments is to believe some kind of strange conspiracy theory, that all of these independent scientists, somehow we have to question their integrity, their motivation, assume an ability to conspire across the world in a magnitude that's almost incomprehensible. Their scientific acumen has to be questioned over and over again. And I think, when I think of a conspiracy theory, one statement that was made today that really underlines that thinking in these presentations is the one that said somehow that the Harper government is clamping down on scientists to enforce elite climate change consensus. The Harper government, of all people, would enforce their scientists to support the idea that climate change is occurring and that people are creating it. Of course, they'd be the last government that would force their scientists to do that. And in fact, if you read the documents that come out of the Environment Department, somehow they squeak out. They all underline the urgency of climate change and that we're occurring. I'm left with this impression of the woman who once said while watching her young son march in the military parade, "Everybody's out of step but my Johnny." And of course, everybody's out of step. The thousands upon thousands upon thousands, the 99% of scientists are out of step, except. So the difficulty, of course, in this, and I appreciate your presentation, is that you know, point by point by point by point, there's devastating science that confronts and overwhelms what you're saying, and maybe we have to go in that and bring in other testimony but I think we probably don't, because I think in the end this will settle this relatively weak. I'm going to